Smith Wilder did not cry when his ex-wife left, when his car broke down on the Brooklyn Bridge, or when the pediatrician told him his 5-year-old son needed weekly breathing treatments for chronic asthma. But when billionaire CEO Elise Harrington looked him straight in the eyes inside a glass-walled Manhattan conference room on a bright weekday morning and said, "You're fired," something inside him almost broke. Not because he was losing a job, but because losing even one paycheck meant his son Zane might lose the apartment, the medication, the stability he fought every day to provide. What Elise didn't know, what she couldn't possibly understand in that moment, was that Smith was already holding life together by threads so thin they were practically invisible. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that prove people are more than their mistakes, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Bright Hearts right now. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to life. Smith had been a server at House Grayson, the most exclusive restaurant in Midtown, for just under a year. He was good at it, professional, calm, and always ready with a quiet smile for stressed business people in dark suits. Most customers never knew he was a single dad who got up at 4:45 a.m. every morning to prepare oatmeal for Zane, drop him at school, rush to work, then race back to pick him up before the after-school care closed. To them, he was just another name tag. To Zane, he was everything. That morning, Smith had been told to report to a private issue meeting. He thought maybe someone had complained. Maybe he mixed up wine orders or forgot a dessert. But inside the conference room, there was Elise Harrington herself, one of the youngest tech billionaires in New York, flawless posture, sculpted confidence, and an expression so icy it could silence a room. Beside her sat 2 board members and a man in a navy suit who barely blinked. Elise didn't bother with small talk. She looked at a paper in front of her, then at him. "There have been concerns regarding your performance," she said, voice smooth, precise, practiced. "Multiple service complaints. Due to these issues, you're fired." Effective immediately, Smith felt heat rise in his chest. Not anger, just fear. Real fear. Rent was due Friday. Zane's inhaler refill wasn't covered by insurance this month. But he refused to beg. He refused to blame. He inhaled slowly and said the one sentence that changed everything. "I understand," he said quietly. "But if I'm going to lose this job, please let it mean something good for my son." The room went still. Elise blinked once, as if she hadn't expected that. Most people argued. Most pleaded. Most blamed someone else. But Smith's voice was steady, exhausted, and gentle. The kind that carried the truth of sleepless nights and love that never rests. He started to turn to leave. But something stopped him when Elise asked, "Your son?" Smith explained, standing there in the glass room with skyscrapers glittering behind him, how he worked 2 jobs, how Zane had asthma that could turn dangerous in minutes, how he sometimes took extra shifts just to afford medicine, how he had messed up recently because he'd been up all night in urgent care. He didn't complain. He didn't ask for sympathy. He just told the truth the way a storm tells rain. Silence again. Cold office silence. Then Elise said, "Sit down." Smith sat, confused. The board members exchanged glances. Elise leaned forward, elbows on the table, and something shifted in her eyes. Not softness, not yet, but curiosity. She asked questions. Real questions. Not about performance, but about life. About responsibility. About why a man would work 12 hours on no sleep and still show up trying to smile. Smith answered everyone honestly. Elise dismissed the board members. The navy-suited man left the room with documents tucked under his arm. Then it was just her and Smith. For the first time, her voice lost the steel edge and revealed something fragile beneath. "My father was a single parent," she said, staring out the window. "He worked 3 jobs. I never saw him. I used to think he didn't care." Smith watched her. This woman with power beyond imagination, sitting in silence like a child who still carried an old hurt. "He cared," Smith said softly. "Sometimes caring doesn't look pretty." Elise's jaw tightened, but her eyes glistened just for a second. Then she stood, the steel returning. "There will be a review of your case," she said. "Go home for now." Smith expected nothing. He left the building with no job, no security, and a heart heavy as the buildings downtown. The sun was too bright, too cruel. He walked to the subway thinking about Zane's smile when he'd say, "Daddy, did you have a good day?" and knowing he'd have to lie. For 3 days, there was nothing. Smith applied to coffee shops, delivery jobs, anything that would hire him fast. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, he got a call from an unknown number. A woman's voice told him to return to the Harrington corporate offices. He thought maybe there were more papers to sign, more humiliation. But when he reached the building, he was taken to a different floor, an office filled with plants and warm lighting. Not the cold conference room from before. Elise was waiting, holding a folder. "We investigated," she said. 2 of the complaints were minor misunderstandings. One was just false. She set the folder down. "You're not fired. I'm reinstating you immediately, with a raise." Smith stared, breathless. He wasn't emotional easily, but his throat tightened. Before he could thank her, she continued. "And," she said, looking almost nervous, "I have another offer. One that might matter more." She showed him a document, explaining a new program her company was funding. Help for single parents in crisis. Flexible schedules. Child medical support assistance. With one signature, Smith wouldn't just keep his job. He would be able to actually breathe again that he didn't know what to say. Elise did something rare then. She smiled, small, real. "I can't fix everything," she said, "but I can try not to repeat mistakes my father made." Smith's life changed slowly after that. Not with miracles, but with stability. He worked shifts he could manage. He made it to every school event Zane had. He kept a jar of inhaler refills in a cabinet now. And sometimes he'd see Elise dining at the restaurant, nodding to him with a look that wasn't cold power anymore, but respect. Something else changed too. Elise began visiting community centers to speak with single parents. She funded programs no one knew came from her. She never admitted publicly why she started them. But Smith knew that on a crisp afternoon months later, he saw Elise walking out of the restaurant just as Zane came running toward him, laughing, waving his new inhaler case decorated with superhero stickers. Elise watched them a moment. There was gratitude in her eyes, but also a quiet acknowledgement of shared humanity. Life didn't become perfect. Smith still had bad days, late bills, and long nights. But there was hope now, rooted deep, that if this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Bright Hearts. It helps more than you know, and our community grows stronger with every act of kindness. Before this story ends, here's a special request. Comment, "People deserve second chances." If you believe compassion can change a life. Smith never forgot the day he stood in that glass room, facing the sentence, "You're fired." It should have been the worst moment of his life. Instead, it became a doorway. A doorway to understanding, to empathy, and to a future where one sentence, spoken honestly, without bitterness, was strong enough to crack the armor of someone who seemed untouchable. Because sometimes the most powerful change begins not with anger, but with truth. And sometimes the heart you least expect to open, opens, and that changed everything.